Last year, Xbox and Nintendo announced their intentions to increase the prices for their games, for their accessories, and in Microsoft's case, their consoles. $70 to $80 for new games and $600 for an Xbox Series X were once looming threats that are now our present. And if that wasn't bad enough, at the time of writing this, Nintendo announced that they would once again be raising the prices for their accessories and their Nintendo Switch line of consoles. Not the Switch 2, the first Nintendo Switch, you know, the one that's literally 8 years old. And guess what? I take that back because Nintendo just announced in May of 2026 that they would raise the price of the Switch 2 to $500. That's a $50 increase, which sucks all around, but when you compare it to Sony and their recent price hikes for their PS5 consoles in April, it's nothing. As of this price hike, the digital-only PS5 is now $200 more than when it was first released in 2020. And don't even get me started on the PS5 Pro. Raised prices like this is why I made a video back in April called Don't Waste $80, Go Retro. A video with a admittedly very sensationalist title that I made to 1. Show off my gaming collection, and 2. Show people that you don't need to always play the newest games when the older games are just as good, while also being cheaper to boot most of the times. The overall response for that video had been pretty positive, with only a few instances of negative reactions, and the occasional instances of very negative reactions, some bordering on disturbing. In the midst of all that though, I did see this reoccurring complaint that would pop up in regards to retro gaming, and that was its price of entry. According to them, retro gaming is just far too expensive to get into, apparently several times more expensive than modern gaming. And to that, I'd have to say that they're wrong. Not completely, but mostly. And in this video, I'm going to show you just how cheap I managed to get the majority of the consoles I showed off in that video, as well as how to potentially get these kinds of prices yourself. Now, let's get started. This is my PlayStation 2 Slim. I bought her back in 2021, which is around the same time that most of the consoles that I'll showcase in this video were purchased. During this time, I was in the midst of working my previous job, where I was making just enough money that I could have some extra set aside to use for whatever silly fun things my man-child heart desired. I had a Switch Lite at the time, so I bought plenty of games for that. And in late 2021, I managed to get my hands on a PlayStation 5 that I barely play nowadays. But the one gaming thing that I desired more than buying new fancy games was older ones. Throughout my gaming career, as I grew from child to adult, I would receive and I would lose games or gaming consoles. Whether from me selling them to buy newer games, trading them with friends or with classmates, or life would just find some other way to take them off my hands. And as I grew older, I found myself yearning to own the consoles that used to be a part of my collection once more. Now, I don't know what happened to cause it, but I remember just wanting to buy this PS2 Slim. And when I finally made the decision and tapped the buy button, it was over. My retro gaming descent had officially begun. I bought the PS2 Slim. Then I bought the PS2 Fat. Then I ended up buying an original Xbox. Then I got an Xbox 360 Slim, then a Game Boy Advance, then a DS Lite, then a Game Boy Color. It got out of hand really quickly. I've seen meth heads more responsible with their money than this. But yeah, before I knew it, I owned pretty much every single old console that used to be a part of my life as a kid. It's by no means a complete representation. There are some missing pieces, but in my eyes, my collection is complete for now. Now, I named off like 7 consoles that come from all walks of life, from handheld to home console, Sony to Nintendo. They're all different, but there should be one thing that brings them all together. Considering these are all retro consoles, it's gotta be their price, right? $200, $300, $400, heck, maybe even $500. $500, the same price as a PlayStation 5. That surely must be what a PlayStation 2 costs in this day and age, right? Well, this PlayStation 2 Slim I bought back in 2021 cost me only $60. And here's the kicker. It wasn't even just the bare essentials. I ended up getting the PS2, a controller, 4 games, and a light gun as a cherry on top, for the same price as a game back on the PS4 and Xbox One. Actually, a little bit more than that, gotta take into account shipping and handling and stuff. I got myself pretty much everything I needed to have a good time. This bundle right here that I bought can last a normal adult like 2, maybe even 3 or 4 weeks. And the games that it came with weren't even shovelware. Jak and Daxter 1, Devil May Cry 1, Mega Man 8 are nothing to scoff at. Well, maybe Mega Man 8. This is a shockingly impressive purchase. Even just ignoring the extras and focusing on the console and maybe the controller alone, I think that's a very good price. Looks like all those years of putting all my skill points into luck and Megaten games is finally paying off. Now let's move on to my PS2 Fat, and spoiler alert, the haul was not as exciting. On the surface at least. I love the Slim, but I ended up getting a Fat PS2 a few weeks later because I realized that having access to the hard drive bay could prove to be quite advantageous down the line if I choose to mod my console, which I did, another spoiler alert. It came with 2 official controllers, a memory card, and an official network adapter. The price? $50. $10 less than the PS2 Slim. Now, of course, it didn't come with any games as far as I could remember, but like the Slim, I think that's an amazing deal for just the console alone. It even has a network adapter, and those things could sell for like around $15 to $20 by themselves. Wow. So far, batting 2 for 0 here. Next consoles I'm gonna have to speed through since honestly they're not as exciting in regards to like extras or other goodies that they may have came with. So there was my original Xbox, came with an original controller and a copy of Fable, cost me $50. Then there was the Xbox 360 Slim, which came with a controller and all the wires, and that also cost me $50. Got that one in person, and no, I did not get stabbed. Then a Game Boy Advance. It was missing the battery cover, but for only $40, I really couldn't complain. Then I got a beautiful refurbished DS Lite from one of my coworkers for $70. They actually ended up including one of those carts that have like 500 games in them, so that was a pretty nice bonus that I didn't even ask for. Then lastly, I came across this Game Boy Color at a local collector shop for $50. It's incredibly gross, and honestly, I don't even know if I'd recommend anyone to buy a Game Boy Color of this caliber for that price, but I personally bought it with the intention to mod it in the future, same with the Game Boy Advance, so I took the bullet with pride. And in 2026, I ended up buying this Sega Saturn for, and I want to make sure that you're sitting down for this one, $50. Almost $40, and the reason why is that this Saturn is quote-unquote defective. The seller said that there was occasional video distortion that they were not able to fix, so they ended up listing it as for parts. When we met up, they tried to accept only $40 due to the console's condition, but I wasn't going to accept that because of how upfront and honest they were about the console and what was wrong with it. So I forced them to take the $50, and now I have a Sega Saturn which basically runs like normal 99% of the time. It came with a 3-pack of games, one of them being the absolutely glorious. I also got a Model 1 Sega Genesis with some baseball game for around $40 off of eBay. It didn't come with any video or power cables, so after buying those on their own, it ended up coming out to around $50-ish after the fact. This is a Japanese DSi LL I got off of eBay for around $110. However, it had yellowed screens and a slightly broken D-pad, both not mentioned or made clear in the listing. After sending a strongly worded message, I ended up getting a partial refund of $53, meaning it was around $57. And finally, I got a Famicom and Super Famicom coming in from Japan for $160 altogether. They're both in what looks to be good condition, all the wires, and each system is even coming with 3 games included. So that accounts for about $80-ish for each system. Considering that this is being shipped from Japan, including import fees and all that, I consider that a really good deal. And as a bonus, I'll throw in my Wii U and new 3DS, which I got for $80 and $100 respectively. The Wii U was bare bones, but the new 3DS came with like 3 games and an amiibo, and to top it all off, it was hacked. They're not as old as the other consoles I showed off, but they're leading into my main point, so whatever, YOLO. All these consoles, with the exception of the new 3DS and DSi LL, were less than $100. Sometimes half that. This, almost completely debunks the biggest gotcha that people brought up in the comments of my first video, that retro gaming is just too expensive. Now, I understand why someone that doesn't understand or know anything about retro gaming would say that, since some retro vintage things can fetch high prices that far exceed what most sane individuals would even consider paying for, but that isn't always the case. In fact, most of the times it isn't, unless that's what you're looking for. Because retro gaming is only as expensive as you want it to be. And what do I mean about that? Well, when looking around for retro games, just like looking around for any other types of deals like on your Amazons or your antique roadshows, there are several factors that could come into play. And these, what I personally found, are platform, demand, Nintendo, patience, and most importantly, luck. Some can majorly impact prices and others not so much. First up, we're going to start with platform, which is pretty much where you just buy things. Think like eBay, a retro game shop, Swapmeet, or in my case, OfferUp. Now, I'm going to stop this video really quick to talk specifically about OfferUp. OfferUp was generally my go-to site and where I got nearly all of these consoles from. Though I trusted the site dearly back then, as of late 2025, OfferUp stopped offering nationwide shipping, which was how I got most of my things. Because of this change, I no longer recommend it as highly as I used to. Despite that unfortunate change though, it's still a really good place to get stuff if you're getting it locally. It's how I got the Wii U, Xbox 360 Slim, and that insane Sega Saturn deal in April of 2026. If you want a similar experience to OfferUp during its nationwide shipping days, the closest analog to it I think would be Mercari. Okay, and now back to the video. Stuff like that. These are all spots that you can find retro games with ease, but despite that, they are not all created equal. Some of these places I actually wouldn't recommend unless the thing that they have that you want are super rare and hard to find anywhere else. Places like booths at conventions, GameStop, these places know the value of their games and may sometimes even come across as predatory. Now, that's not always the case, but in my experience, you're not likely to get a deal from these locations. Instead, try places like yard sales, antique shops, and especially marketplaces like OfferUp, Mercari, or Facebook Marketplace. These places are full of people that either don't know value or don't care about value and are just trying to get rid of their items. You likely won't catch any rare finds, but if you're looking for the bare minimum like a console, controllers, and some basic games, these are the places to go. Also, here's a bit of a tip for anyone that's planning or wants to meet up with someone in public to buy something locally. I highly recommend meeting in a location that is safe and in the public eye. I like going to places like Starbucks, Taco Bell, stuff like that to hold the deal. If the person you're talking to is not willing to meet in a public spot and wants you to meet up at their home or some other location, please exercise caution. If the site has approximate locations for items available, check it out on Google Maps and see if that's what you would consider a safe area. If you had to forfeit a deal because you didn't really feel safe about it, don't beat yourself up over it. These are just video games, and potentially risking your life or anything else is never worth it. Next, we have demand. Demand is exactly as it says on the tin, whether people want something or not. If something is higher in demand, then prepare for its prices to be higher as a result. And vice versa as well. If something is not that much in demand, then you could probably expect it to be pretty cheap. Demand can be affected by any number of things, and most of them are obvious. Trends can come in and come out, and growing nostalgia for generations of consoles and their respective library of games can be a part of those trends. Things like GameCube, PS2, Xbox, heck, even PS3, 360, and Wii, on a lesser scale, are starting to gain popularity again. It's not guaranteed, but this type of demand is something to take into account if you want to buy something retro. So many little things like this can potentially fluctuate prices. It could be really meta and very inconsistent. Here's an example. Things like Tony Hawk's American Wasteland on Xbox 360. It's a great game. In fact, it's one of my favorite Tony Hawk games. I know it's not really highly regarded in the community, but it's a great game that's mostly off the radar now. But it rose drastically in price because it was revealed that it could be used to soft mod your console. Stuff like that, it can be really weird. Something that's not weird and pretty easy to determine is Nintendo. Yeah, so kind of funny that Nintendo has an entire section dedicated to themselves, and that's mainly due to the fact that Nintendo products always manage to be expensive when they are expected to be cheap, whether it be on their random eShop sales that happen like once a year or secondhand. Especially secondhand. You can find a loose disc for a game like Melee and still see weirdos selling it for like $50. And some ways, I kinda understand why prices are high. Nintendo games, more times than not, are some of the most fun that you can get from gaming. And Nintendo also has this sort of unique status compared to Sony and Microsoft. When you see Nintendo, you know that you are guaranteed to be getting some serious quality. Also, since their games are more on the kid-friendly side, more people are expected to have been exposed to them while younger, meaning a higher nostalgia and higher demand. Console prices like the GameCube and Wii can also be pretty high too, as well as their respective accessories. I've even seen N64 and its games on the higher side too. Whatever the case, if your interest lies in anything retro Nintendo, then be prepared to either spend more money, do a lot of researching, or rolling those sleeves up and doing a lot of bartering with the seller. There's value in these items, so finding a deal is not going to be easy. What also won't be easy is patience. This is likely one of the most important traits that you could have when looking for old games like this. If you're not finding anything that meets your criteria, whether it be price, condition, or whatever, it might be easy to just give in and buy something that doesn't reach any or all of your requirements. It's hard to practice patience since it lies much deeper than just retro game collecting, but if you can learn the art, it could help a lot, whether collecting or not. I personally have my own troubles with it, and if I waited around a bit more for deals, I likely could have gotten a lot more consoles that gave me more bang for my buck, just like with the PS2 Slim that I bought. But honestly, at the end of the day, it all could probably just come down to the one factor that we can't control: luck. That PS2 Slim that I just mentioned, I honestly had no intention to find a deal of that magnitude. I just opened up OfferUp and scrolled for like a couple of minutes and boom, there it was. No searching, no planning, no nothing. Sometimes you may be searching for something and then you'll find something else that you've never expected. Of course, don't just carelessly let luck dictate your entire life unless you roll that way like me. But if you do put a little bit of thought and effort into your searches, these crazy deals may come to reward your discipline. Or maybe putting no effort can yield you the same results, and who frickin' knows? I never really got a chance to talk about games on their own. I will say that's when it could get even more varied in price. From rarity, demand, whether it's a loose disc or complete in box, all that. There are way more variables, but I will say this. Unless it's a very rare game like Rule of Rose or just Nintendo games in general, you are likely to get most games for pretty reasonable prices. Reasonable, but varied. For example, I looked around for a copy of Tony Hawk's Underground because the new THPS 3 and 4 remake got me feeling some type of nostalgic, and I found copies ranging from $15, $20, $25, and so on. And it didn't really seem to matter whether it was loose or not. The prices were just all over the place. I think this might be what these sellers personally valued the games at, but yeah, the main goal is to just find the cheapest prices. If that is still too much for you, or you just don't want to go through all that effort of finding and buying old-ass games that have long since gone out of print, dude, I totally understand. I can't tell you how to live your life, and if you want to find another way to procure or play retro games, then by all means, you do you, dude. And here are a few tips that don't really fit into any category or need that much in regards to elaboration. I digress, and that is about all I have to offer in regards to things like hints. Honestly, a lot of this I just said seems like it could all just be chalked up to common sense, but sometimes hearing that common sense from a outside source might help it stick. So if it does help you out, then great, perfect. And if it doesn't, then, well, I don't know what to say. I mean, I guess I could stand outside the nearby Target and let everyone that didn't get anything out of my tips punch me in the balls. With all that said, I am going to begin to wrap up this video. Now, as I showed you, old games from the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox era can be a lot cheaper than you think. Considering that they are old, making an assumption that the games and consoles are super duper expensive could likely be a safe assumption. But that's all it is. It's an assumption, which is what many people in the comments from my older videos said, sometimes with hard confidence that what they were saying is true. So that's the biggest reason why I wanted to make this video, to hopefully clear the air. I doubt it will, but it's better than sitting on my ass and doing nothing about it. Considering a lot of these consoles I bought were 2 to 4 years ago, there are chances that the prices can raise the longer time goes on. I did personally do some research for this video, and my research yielded results that are mostly similar, if not a little bit more expensive than back in 2021. Despite it still being around the same prices as before, if you're interested in getting into retro gaming, the time to do it is as soon as possible. Nostalgia and just general demand for these consoles are still ongoing, especially the demand. But yeah, that's it. If there's anything I didn't really clarify, or if I just forgot to talk about something in this video, let me know in the comments. Hopefully I could get back to you on that, and thank you all for watching. I hope you have a great day, and remember, retro is only as expensive as you want it to be. See you around.